Nestle, you look at their LinkedIn profile. For some of them, it is the only job they have done ever since they finished their MBA. Because when you spend, there are two types of careers you come across. One is like, Madhu here, she'll tell you she's been with Nokia for a very long time. One, people who stick to a job, okay, they invest their time and effort in the company, and the company also invests a lot in them by training them, mentoring them. Both of them benefit. So when you are working in a company for long and taking up challenges across functions, across geographies, the company is watching you. Okay, and when the suitable opportunity arises, and if you've been prepared, you will be given that opportunity. For instance, when the Maggi, all of you must have heard of the Maggi fiasco, right, in 2015? When the Maggi fiasco happened, Maggi roped in Suresh Narayanan, okay, who's currently heading. Suresh was actually heading Nestle in Philippines at that time. He was having a nice cool time in Philippines. And I'm telling this because once Suresh had come to our office to give a talk and he was talking about his experience. So they roped in because they wanted an Indian to steer the company out of this turmoil. You know why they chose Suresh Narayan? Not just because he was an Indian, because there were many other Indians at senior level in Nestle. Before Philippines, moving to Philippines, he had already done 2011 to 2014, I think. He had already spent in Egypt, and he had, gone through that entire turmoil during the Arab Spring of 2011. So he had really handled a tough market, and the top guys thought he is the most suitable choice to steer the company out. And he did get Maggi back in the racks. It's a different story. It was a long story. He told us how he got it back. Very impressive story. But if you look at Suresh Narayan's profile, I think he started with HUL. And when he went for his job as a management trainee, whatever, first thing his boss gave, one stack of files. Please get these photocopied. And it took him a few days to photocopy. And he was wondering, the company really didn't need a person of his caliber to get things photocopied. But Suresh was not an ordinary guy. Suresh, while photocopying, he would flip through the files. He understood what the files were. Once he was done, after a few days, he went back to his boss and returned the files to his boss. And his boss asked him a few questions related to those files. Suresh could answer it. So Suresh was spotted as a potential. So I said, no, these little choices that we make in our daily life, they go a long way in deciding our career. And no doubt Suresh is, heading Nestle India today. Before I conclude, how many girls here? I guess about 40% women here. So I don't want to sound feminist, but I just want to share something from my experience. When we are growing up, our parents don't differentiate between a son and a daughter. We are given equal opportunities. We compete with the boys in school. I used to compete fiercely with the topper of my class. Even in college, we compete with men. Here, again, you're going to be competing with men. But please remember, in the corporate world, you can't compete with men. I'm not trying to be feminist because our social fabric is as such, the expectations are as such, we can't compete with them. Neither can we compete with another woman. Because, each woman has her own unique challenges. She comes with her own circumstances. All of our families are different. Somebody has family support, somebody does not have family support. Like, I depended a lot on baby daycare and creche, when my children were small. So for each one of us, the circumstances are unique. And hence, it's unfair to compare ourselves with anybody. In a long span of 35, 40 years career, it does not matter if you have to take a break for a few years or you have to go slow for a few years. If you have to take a tough call, take a call which makes you happy and the people around you happy. Okay, forget about the rest of the world. If you people have read linear equations in mathematics, when you solve linear equations, you have some set of constraints. We all operate just not women, even men, all of us operate with a set of constraints around us. So we are not looking for the best solution. We are looking for the optimal solution. And life is like a linear equation where you need to pick up the optimal solution, not the best solution. You may not be able to do both home, office, balance out both, but make a decision which suits you and set your own benchmark. You should be your own benchmark. Don't compete with anybody. Before I conclude, I just want to touch upon 2 points which are very critical, which are not just critical for MBAs, it's in fact critical for everybody. The first one is ethics. Do not compromise on your ethics. We used to have a subject for it. I'm sure probably you also will have that subject, business ethics. In the corporate world, it's called corporate governance. You know, the way an individual grows, or a corporate entity grows, or a society grows and succeeds depends on its ethics. Ethics are the root. So today, if you come across any scam, you know, bankruptcy, etc., all those unpleasant news, the root cause is personal ethics, which extends to business ethics, and then, you know, spreads across in the society. So guard your ethics against all temptations. Second thing is attitude. Attitude can make or break a situation in life. Whatever you read here probably will be outdated in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, because things are changing so fast today. You need to adapt. But there's something that you can develop here which will take you a long way, and that is attitude. I studied systems and finance here. I have been working in marketing all throughout, and I thoroughly love my job. After I made that switch from operations in Bajaj Allianz, till now, I have never looked back. I have never felt, you know, I'm stressed. That's because I enjoy my job. I don't miss out the Wednesday brand equity section in Economic Times. I don't miss it out. Even if I miss it out, I read it over the weekend. I cleared my CFA when I had 2 kids. Generally, people clear CFA in 3 years, 4 years. Youngsters are these days clearing it in 3, 4 years. You know, it took me 7 years to clear CFA, because when I started CFA, I was working with DSP BlackRock. I had a 3-year-old daughter. By the time I finished level 1 and I was giving level 2, when I was giving level 2, my son was only 4 months old. And then after that, to do level 3 with both kids, so it took me about 3, 4 attempts to clear level 3. But I didn't give up. So what I'm trying to say is attitude can make or break a situation in any life. And all of it comes from the mind. So remember, your mind is the most powerful thing that you need to learn to control and master. If you have mastered, opportunity favors the prepared mind. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am, for those inspiring words and for your experiences, sharing your experiences and memories. I'm sure it has infused a lot more energy and enthusiasm in all of us. Reiterating to kindly please switch off your mobile phones or please keep it in silent mode.
As our chief guest for today, we have another illustrious TAPMEan, Ms. Madhu Bisht. Alumnus of the 1995 batch of TAPME, is the head of human resource for Global Business Unit at Nokia. HR professional, trainer, and coach is what describes her journey in the path of people development. She is valued as a trusted partner. Leaders see her as a person who is driven, enabling the business with creative ideas to develop people, and one who is able to bring consensus in diverse team settings. It is therefore not surprising that she has a string of accolades to her name. Identified as one of the inspiring women leaders, certified coach from International Coach Federation USA, and an award for leading the Nokia Siemens integration for the India Technology Center in the year 2008. May I request Ms. Madhu Bisht to address the batch.
Dr. Shantaram, Professor Madhur Veeraraghavan, faculty, professors, and students. I know you've been sitting here for already quite some time, so I will keep it short. Kajal has, of course, covered a lot, given you a lot of messages, all very valid. Possibly at the end of the 2 years and when you're out in the industry, you will remember many of the messages. It gives me great pleasure to be standing here because 25 years ago, I was in your place. So 25 years later, coming back here, I did not expect to be on this side of the dais. And it's really a pleasure. I will briefly describe to you my journey. So when I studied here, HR, we were a very small group of people. It's nice to see that some of my professors, like Professor Simon George, still here. And of course, all the staff and faculty are still here. So that's really very nice. So when I started out, HR was not common, and it was my professor who actually told me of a position in ITC. And that's how I went that morning, got through the interview. By the end of the day, I went through about 3 rounds, and then I can tell you all of that is a dream come true, because I started out there as an HR executive. And like Kajal said, I did about everything that one person could do. In the team was just head of HR and me. So I ended up doing all the possible things, and I thought everything was, a nice experience. Of course, like she said, don't differentiate between jobs. For me, it was whatever you get your hands on, grab it, do it, because in everything there is something to learn. There are lots of repetitive things to be done, and if any of you wants to get into HR, be sure repetition is the norm. So what did I do? So the first time I went for a training, I actually sat through the training, but the next time around I told myself it has to be something different. So I started observing the trainer, and thanks to that, I learned to train, to facilitate, to generate discussion. I learned lots of skills. So with your professors, when you listen to them, please learn something every day from them because they are addressing you. Back in TAPME, I remember, we had lots of exposure to giving presentations. We had Professor Kinney, who stays in my mind forever, because he said, when you stand up, your mind should not sit down. And I always remember that when you come onto a dais and talk to people, stay calm. Everybody wants to listen to you, so you are the one who knows things. So never get hassled, come up, smile. You can generate a lot of confidence. So that's a message to all of you. Post ITC, I did not really look for a job, and that's something I can tell you in my 23 years of my career. I have never gone seeking a job. It's always been somebody who said, hey, why don't you pick Madhu for a job? So there's the good and the bad of it, and I've always got jobs, and it so happened when my boss moved out, there was an opening in Siemens. So I joined Siemens there, went for the interview, again got selected. I started out setting up, a professional recruitment setup, set up a, team of recruiters, and I moved on to handling compensation, organization development, a whole lot of things. One day I was suddenly given the job to head the India Technology Center for Nokia during the Nokia Siemens integration. That was a huge learning experience because I was left with nobody in the team. I had to create a team. I had to bring these 2 companies together in India. And then I realized it's not about, your job, but it's about understanding people, getting people to work together. And that's something I think here in the institute is something that you will learn, that you need to get to talk to people, get to know people. That was a huge learning for me. I've always been the person who, if I give my word, I stick to it. So I remember in 2009, they said, you've done a lot in India, now you need to go out. So I got an opportunity to work in UK. And just at the time that I accepted the assignment, I was expecting my baby. And I remember the dilemma then, do I go, not go? I had differing views from people at home and work. And I said, never say never, give it a try. So I delivered my baby. 2 months later, I was in UK. I think that on-site assignment was not, it was not about my job, but it was about managing home, a new baby, a new environment, a new world. And I can tell you that got me more confidence than all the years of work experience. So it is situations which teach you more than anything else. And right now what I do is I head the business HR for 2 of Nokia's businesses. I work with the most senior leaders across the company, across the globe, across countries. And I can tell you, irrespective of things, I think my greatest learning is there are different cultures. We need to learn to work with people of different cultures. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. Connect with people, because that's the best way to get things done, to know people and make it an enjoyable journey. This career of mine has not been without challenges. There's the time pressure, there is the need to keep abreast of what's happening. So I will tell you, invest in self-learning. Back in my days in TAPME, I remember, I always ensured that I tried to read a little more in my area of interest. There is a lot of pressure, but make the time for self-learning, because if you don't, you will get left behind. Coming to, of course, TAPME, I look back very fondly on my years in TAPME. Those 2 years, like Professor Madhu, you said, they were a transforming experience, because I think I was fresh out of college. Our entire batch was primarily students who'd come out of college. It was our first experience in hostel life. I can tell you for sure the first year is very rigorous. So we were not used to the fact that there was continuous evaluation, new subjects, finance, accounts, macroeconomics, all of that really hit me hard. But I always told myself, I'm sure I'm not the one alone. Stay focused, try and do your best. The rest you leave to the chance, the success. But that perseverance and that focus certainly helped me. My other message to you is, while you're in TAPME, each of you brings in certain talents, skills. Make the most of it. There are enough opportunities. So for example, I remember we had Atharva Summit then, and so somebody said, you're a dancer, why don't you dance? And I said, come on, let me take it up. I danced for it. Then there was some other function, and they said, okay, we need people to participate in the fashion show. And I said, okay, come on, let's try that. I had never, ever done things like that. I did Western dances, things which I'm an Indian dancer, so those were new things. Then we had Speed, which was the sports fest, and there again, I made sure I participated in basketball, athletics, all of it. My message here to you is, make the most of the opportunities. Even if you've not done something before, do it. If you have talents, bring it to the fore, because as you go through life, it's these things that keep you stress-free, it keeps you giving diversity, and certainly when you interact with people, there's so much more you can share, there's so much more depth to you as a person. The other aspect about TAPME is about this really becoming family. 23 years later when I'm here, it's still so special. There are lots of things to look back on very fondly. The friends you get here are truly the friends for life. So whoever you have as a roommate, you stay in the hostel, make as many friends as possible, because these are your friends who will stay with you. These times can be difficult. You need a shoulder to lean on. Turn to friends. They can help you out. All I can say is it's been a great journey. I've looked at various areas. I think I've stayed very focused in my area of people development. But one message to you, when you go through the course, you get exposed to so much. Remember, when you come to the corporate world, you are not an HR person or a finance person. You need to be able to talk the same language as everyone in the organization. So ensure you understand what you're doing. Take interest in different areas, because when you come out, you're talking to people who are not interested in your area, but they are interested in how you can help the organization grow. And there's always something to learn from others. So make it a point, we're so stuck in social media and devices. Go out there, you have a brilliant campus, interact with people, talk to people. There's far more that you can learn from others than you can learn from anywhere else. In organizations, you don't deliver alone. You deliver with several people. So it's important that you get to know people, work together. And all I can say is make the most. This is a brilliant lot of friends that you will get here. And it's so nice to see so many parents coming here to support you. Our times were quite different. It was we students came here and then went through everything. So you have a lot of support, great opportunities, and a great institution in TAPME. I wish you the very best. Have fun while you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experience with us. It was very insightful and fascinating to listen to your trip down the memory lane.
We are delighted to have with us Dr. H. Shantaram, Member, Governing Council and Trustee, TAPME. Dr. Shantaram is a PhD from London University, which he obtained in 1954. He has had an illustrious career heading various educational institutions and centers promoting literature, art and culture, and social well-being. He has held prestigious positions like Regional Assistant Director, National Malaria Eradication, Government of India, 1958 to 62, President of the Association of Principals of Mangalore University, President Rangabhumi, a cultural organization of Udupi for 22 years, and many others. I now request Dr. Shantaram to kindly address the gathering. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dignitaries on the dais, faculty of TAPME, and all young men and women who are entering today the portals of this great institution, TAPME. On behalf of the management, let me welcome to you all, not only to the great city of Udupi, and also to a great institution having an international repute. Now, broadly speaking, today's Udupi city, if you draw an imaginary line at Kunjibettu, you will find a distinct phenomenon here. The whole area is known for education and educational enterprise, and also religion and religious philosophy, especially the Madhva philosophy on the western side. Eastern side has got the educational institution in predominance, and west you will find in predominance there are very famous temples. It does not mean in the west there are no educational institutions. There are institutions of repute there also. Similarly, there are a few ancient temples in the eastern part also. But imagine what was this area. These were small, pretty hamlets, two distinct hamlets which are separated by the thick forest in between. One is the Udupi. It was called Rajatapeta at one time, and the Shivalli village. Shivalli village, which is now renamed as Manipal, where your institution is situated. Just 6 decades ago, perhaps at the time when I entered this area, it was actually infested with wild animals. Area had forest and wild animals like cheetahs, wolves, what not. Plenty of poisonous snakes were infested this area. That is why one cheetah was killed in the central part of Manipal. And that is the reason why that area today is called the Tiger Park. A tiger, it is not a tiger that was killed, was a cheetah. Now, many of you may be thinking, why a management institute was started in an area like that in the rural setup. If you see, most of the management schools that have been started, they are in the metropolitan centers. Main reason for this is the man, great man, who have already seen the film that was projected in the beginning, Mr. T.A. Pai. He was a great visionary also, who had a flair for agricultural development. That was one of the reasons. When he mooted the idea, actually he wanted it an institute for managing agricultural economy and agricultural development and the rural development. These were his ideas. He is the person who actually promoted, along with Mr. Subramaniam, the green revolution in this country. And he wanted to help the farmers and the agriculture in a very great way. He promoted large number of schemes as the chairman and managing director of Syndicate Bank. But when the Reserve Bank of India objected for many of these schemes, do you know, his ingenuity was such, he actually achieved his objective by starting Syndicate Agricultural Foundation. And through this foundation, he achieved the object. That is the genesis of this institution. Today it has grown to these colossal heights. And the thing is, Shivalli has become a Manipal. Do you know the genesis of Manipal? Manipal, the name itself, came from the clay pond. In the center of Manipal, there is a big lake. It is a very treacherous area, because I remember the number of students who have lost their life in that particular pond because of the clay bed. This clay bed and this clay was being used for the manufacture of the tiles. During those days, there was a big tile factory also in Manipal, and in Canada, it is Mannapalla. Mannapalla became the Manipal. But later on, many people have given different versions for this. But we always say, it is, Manipal means many pals. Anybody who enters Manipal, he will be a stranger until he comes in. The moment he enters and stays here, he will become a member of this great Manipal family. Why I call it a Manipal family? Because all the educational institutions that are located just by the side of your institution, there is the Manipal University. The university campus is there. And all these institutions, including the institutions of, because facilities in Manipal are available from nursery up to the postgraduate and doctoral education in almost every faculty. And all these institutions join hands with each other. We work like a family. The management is in the hand, and many of us are associated with these. If you imbibe this philosophy in you, you will certainly enjoy your stay in Manipal, and you will be benefited with these. I wish all of you a great future. You are going to shape yourselves as the great managers who are going to decide the destiny of our country. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. TAPME is grateful to have you guiding us in this continuous endeavor to reach the greater heights in the field of management, research, and education.
They say that health is wealth. In today's stressful times, it is not only physical health that is important, but mental health is also of utmost importance. Even now, there is skepticism in speaking about our mental well-being. However, TAPME believes in the holistic development of its students. We shun all stigma around a sensitive issue and have a robust support system in place for students to take care of their well-being. Today, we have with us Ms. Gayatri Prabhu and team to speak about the student counseling facilities. This will be followed by a tea break.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for this moment. Many, many congratulations, first of all, really, to all of you, 400-odd people who have come here. It's fantastic. I know that you've had a long morning of listening to various people, and there's a lot of processing to happen, but even as I say this, because my expectation was that, you know, we have the inaugural session, then there's a break, then I get to talk about this little initiative we've had. But you know, I'm just suddenly so moved by the fact that we are having this conversation on the same stage at the same time as we talk about, you know, the sort of positive influences in our lives and the way we think ahead, the way we progress, but on the very same forum to be able to talk about mental health, I think is an extraordinarily progressive thing to do. And to this, I really warmly, with all my heart, I thank and I congratulate TAPME. Truly, it's an extraordinary thing. So more than 2 decades ago, when I was in a situation like you and had got into a program that everyone said was prestigious, and everyone, including me, expected that I would somehow seamlessly transition into adulthood, that all the life skills I'm supposed to learn to navigate the world would just come my way. But of course, that is not the case. And now, more recently, 2 decades later, from that moment, as a teacher, so I'm a writer, I'm a novelist, I'm also a teacher of literature. I teach in the Manipal Center for Humanities. As a teacher, I found myself once again dealing with moments with young people who are struggling with making some of these transitions that we just assume will happen, right? So I was in and out of several of the hospitals, the psychiatric wards, and this became a moment for me to ask, if I had to go all the way back, talk to my younger self, what is it really that I would have wanted? And the answer was pretty clear. I didn't have to invent the wheel, right? So this is a venture called the Student Support Center, and it was started last year. So just to tell you in a nutshell, okay, this is what it is really. It's a completely confidential service that is, devoted exclusively to supporting the mental health of students. And because this is something that has been done in several institutes around the world, we already had an existing template. So the words that you see coming up really are what was my wish list. So last year, we started on April 1st. I asked myself, for the young people that I support and for the young person I used to be, what is it that would really help us? And immediately, of course, it came to my mind that we have to see mental health in a very holistic fashion. It takes a lot of support, and it has to be done. I'm sorry, this is just kind of running away from me, but It has to be done in a way that is separated from academic progress, because very often we might be academically performing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our mental well-being is quite what it should be, that it should be in a space that is not necessarily the hospital, so that there's a certain comfort. And finding a team, which is something that we have really put some thought into. So now we have 4 clinically trained psychologists who just work with this age group. Something very unique, which I don't think any institute in the world quite has put together the way we have, is that there's a synergy between, like in the same space, if a student requires, the psychiatrists come to the center, and you'll see some pictures of the center soon. The design of the center was also very much around a house. So it's a 2-bedroom house that has been renovated. And to be able to just be there for young people. We have friends and we have family, but one cannot underestimate the importance of a neutral professional person who's going to give